Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going over my HO Polar Express layout. We are going to be adding the track, doing some ballast work, and so let's get to it and see what we got. As you can see, I've gotten everything already plaster cloth from the last video that we did on this thing. I've temporarily set my track kind of back into place just to see how it looks. The biggest thing you want to do is make sure that it's all setting flat, that you do not have any bumps or ridges that's affecting the track part itself. Another thing that I would recommend doing, which I have already done to this, is before you even glue this part down, to making sure that you have already hooked up a train to this. Test the layout to make sure that there's not going to be any derailments or any problems with the whole thing before you get started on it. So please make sure that you do that ahead of time. Let's go ahead, and first thing I'm going to do, even though this is going to be a winter layout and most of this is actually all going to be white, no major issue with that, but I want to put some under earth tone just underneath the track layout. So we're going to peel back up all these pieces, do a earth wash to it, and go from there. So I am just using some Woodland Scenics earth undercoat to it. It's just a brown. We're just gonna add some in there. Let this all set up and come back and start assembling the track and making sure that it's where I want it so we can get it glued down. All right, now that I've tested the track, now I'm ready to actually glue the track down. So I just use regular hot melt and I dab in certain areas. So for me, being close to the edge here, I'm actually going to get on the edge, and I'm going to do the inside section first, and it just needs like a dime-sized glob. All right, now that I got it glued, I'm gonna do one last test run with my train on it, just to make sure that it does run okay, and that there's no problems with that. As long as I get a good test run out of it, then I can go and get started on the ballast part. All right, so I've officially gotten everything glued down. I went over a couple spots trying to re-glue them up just a little bit better. I thought I'd show just a little bit. As you can see, some of them are a couple inches apart, 3 inches, 4 to 6 inches, somewhere thereabouts. So I think it turned out really good. The track is level, the train runs on it very, very good. So now we are going to work on a little bit of ballast. So let me set up my cameras and we'll work on some ballast section here. All right, so I'm going to show you how I do my ballast on just this little small section. There's no sense of me showing the entire way of ballasting around this whole thing because there's about 9,000 other videos on YouTube showing it, and I feel that's kind of redundant, but I will show you what I do to this, and then I'll just go ahead and finish the rest of it up. So what I'm using is, I am going to be using Woodland Scenics Medium Ballast Gray Blend for the ballast on there. I buy a couple of eyedroppers. These are just Walmart special things, nothing special about them. I think they're like $1.99 for a 2-pack. I just use a 1-inch foam brush on it, a plastic spoon to help distribute, and then I've got a couple little small cup containers that I use for, one holds the hydrogen peroxide or the isopropyl alcohol, not the hydrogen peroxide, sorry. Isopropyl alcohol, and then the other one holds my glue blend. And of course this is all from Walmart, but isopropyl alcohol, just 70%. If you got 90%, I haven't noticed a difference between the two as far as what you want to use. And then I actually use, I know a lot of people like to use the white glue, but I use Titebond wood glue because this is what I actually use for my business too. So it's what I have available, it's what I get a lot of, and it works great. So I just mix this with water, and that actually becomes my glue that I use to hold down the track. So first thing you want to do is make sure that everything's free and clear of debris. So for the edge of the track here, right on the very edges, I like to take and put just a thin little bead along it, okay? Oh, one more thing that I forgot to mention for a utensil that you will need that I did not bring out yet. You will need, which I bought these at Michael's craft store, just a couple real small, cheap painter brush deals to help spread the rock and stuff. You can also use this if you want. I used to do this all the time when I first started, which is spreading this around like this. And then I just kind of stopped because it kind of held the glue down just the same without me spreading it down. But I'll show you spreading it down this way too. So I do not put any glue on the center sections. I only do it on this far side section there, just like that. And then once we're done with that, now we're going to turn around and put some ballast on it. So all I'm doing is taking just the very tip part of the foam brush and getting it in between the railroad ties to make sure that it blends. And you may need to add some more, because obviously I do. Yeah, that looks terrible. This is so time consuming. I can see why a lot of people don't like to do ballast work. Out of everything of doing on a layout, ballast work and actually making the buildings are the two things that I don't really enjoy as much. I like it when it's done. I think it looks great when it's done, but just making it for the first time and getting things set how I want it to set, it's time consuming and not as much fun as I would like it to be. And as you can tell, I don't get too carried away with really trying to pile a lot in that center section because it does blend out as you work your pieces in there. It will blend and fill just fine. Did I mention this was time consuming? This is very time consuming. Oh my gosh. So I poured myself a little thing of the isopropyl alcohol in that, and we're gonna turn around and make my glue wash. For these bottles, I've kind of got it down to a science now. I fill in about 3/16 to 1/4 inch on the bottom part of this cup, and then I actually just fill the rest of this cup with water. About to that upper ledge, and that seems to be my great blend of layout. And then I just take a brush and I mix it all together. And this makes my glue dropper wash that I use for gluing the ballast down. So we take our droppers and I try to put one drop just in between the railroad ties. Just one drop. The isopropyl alcohol will spread out evenly and fill in the gaps. And what it's trying to do is allow, when you put your glue in, it will allow the glue to spread and disperse evenly instead of just putting a big glob of glue. Well, actually, you can kind of see this, where it just puts this big drop of glue up top. It eventually kind of works itself out, but it doesn't spread evenly. It doesn't disperse and it doesn't fill in. And then I go through on the side rails. I try not to put this on the rails. Like I said, I don't want the glue and stuff on the rails, but I try to get just the initial parts. And I try not to be clear up in the air. The heavier you let the drops go, the more it will make little indentions on your track. And so even after I do this, I will have to go back through and possibly fill in a couple areas. Like even right in here, I can see that part of the track is the road bed from the Bachmann track is starting to show through because some of the ballast has shifted. And so I'm going to go back through that and adjust that. So make sure that even after you do this, to look for that and try not to hold it too far up in the air when you're letting your droplets down, so that way it doesn't create a bunch of little bumps and divots into your ballast area. You want to try to make it look as natural as it possibly can. Now we've got that done. Now we're grabbing onto the glue. Same thing, I always start in between the railroad ties first. One single drop. And I can start to see where the glue spreads out in between. So here's where you can see, this is what I want to show you. I do have some alcohol, isopropyl alcohol in there, but not a lot. And you can see how it's setting up top. It will eventually soak itself in, but it's got to work through all that extra material that's already on there. So it's going to take some time. That's the reason why you use the alcohol, because it will allow it to fill in. Now I'm going back through on the outside of the tracks. Okay. As you can see, I'm coming back up to the top section. I'm going to run it down, and then I'm going to run a bead right down the center here too. And you can tell when you've got just enough, because you can start to see it, it'll start to fill in, and you'll see a little bit of liquid on the top part of it. And that's, for me, when I'm doing this, that's where I know I'm good, because now it will soak in, it'll dry, and it will hold that into place. So no matter which way I turn this, even if I turn it upside down, it's going to stay glued. So, all right, guys. Well, this is it for this week of video. Hope you liked it. Hopefully this helps you out. If whether or not you're ballasting a Bachmann track, regular track, this is kind of my quick way of doing it. Like I said, I know that there's a bunch of other videos on there for it, but I appreciate you guys watching this, and hopefully this helped you out. If you like it, leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you all next week with more fun and adventures on the rails and in the model train world. Take care, everyone.